The rain had been falling for hours, a cold, relentless curtain that blurred headlights and soaked everything it touched. But the real chill wasn't in the air. It was in the silence. The kind of silence that made a small girl feel invisible in a world moving too fast to notice. Her sneakers squished with every step. Water had long since seeped through the holes in the soles. But she didn't cry. Not even when her fingers went numb. Not even when people passed her by like she wasn't even there. She was 7 years old, and she was carrying her baby brother. Lila stood at the corner of 5th and Monroe, hunched under a sagging metal bus stop awning. Her dark hair clung to her cheeks, plastered by the rain. One arm wrapped around a heavy backpack stuffed with diapers and half a bottle of cold formula. The other held a small, shivering bundle. Inside the thin, soaked blanket, her brother Finn, just 4 months old, whimpered softly. His cries were too quiet to draw attention. Too tired. Too cold. People walked past, umbrellas tilted low, eyes locked on phones or hurried conversations. A few glanced. A few frowned. Some whispered something to the person beside them, but no one asked. No one stopped. Lila's jaw clenched as she gently adjusted Finn's blanket, trying to block the wind. She whispered softly to him, "It's okay, buddy. Just a little longer." She didn't believe it, but maybe he would. This morning had started with silence. The kind that comes when you realize no one's coming to help. Lila had been staying in a smoke-filled one-bedroom apartment with her mother's cousin and his girlfriend. After their mom passed away giving birth to Finn, Lila had been passed off like luggage. The cousin barely remembered her name. The girlfriend made it clear. No crying babies and no noise. Lila learned to disappear. But this morning, before anyone woke up, she had packed Finn's bag, slipped on her hoodie, and left. No one saw her go. Maybe no one would notice. She had one destination in mind. The only place that had ever felt like home. The walk had taken hours. She followed the street names she half remembered, took turns by feel. Her backpack grew heavier with every block, but she didn't stop. She couldn't, not until she saw it. A yellow house, peeling paint, 3 steps to the porch. This was it. Her heart beat so hard it hurt. For a second, she stood there frozen, remembering warm pancakes, lavender soap, and her mother's laugh. Then she climbed the stairs and knocked. A man in his 40s answered, confusion in his eyes. "Can I help you?" I used to live here," she said. He frowned. "I bought this place from the bank a few weeks ago. The last owner passed away. The place was foreclosed." He looked past her at the baby in her arms, then gently said, "I'm really sorry, but this isn't your home anymore." And then he closed the door. Now, hours later, she was back where she started, at the bus stop. Her shoulders were shaking. Finn was asleep, finally, but his skin felt too cold. She had no idea where to go next. The city kept moving, a blur of tires slicing through puddles, horns, sirens in the distance. And that's when she heard it. Not a car, not footsteps, something quieter. Click, click, click. She turned. At the edge of the sidewalk stood a dog. A German shepherd, soaked from the rain, but standing still as stone. Lila held Finn tighter, unsure if she should move. The dog didn't bark. He didn't growl. His head tilted slightly, eyes fixed on hers, not aggressive, just watching. And then slowly he stepped forward, step by step, until he sat directly in front of her, upright, still, like he was guarding her. "Are you lost too?" she whispered. The dog blinked slowly. Rain dripped from his fur. Lila didn't know what to make of it, but something about him felt steady. She didn't feel so invisible anymore. She didn't feel so alone. Some say dogs have a 6th sense for finding those who need them most. Stories like this remind us that sometimes a dog's loyalty is more than instinct. It's a calling. Subscribe to Heroes for Animals on YouTube for more real-life moments of animal bravery and unseen bonds. These are the stories that remind us how much we need each other. Back at her desk in the local precinct, Officer Dana Whitlock sipped stale coffee and squinted through the rain-covered windshield of her cruiser. She wasn't supposed to be on this route today. She'd asked for a shift change. Again. It was easier to be out in the storm than sit alone in her quiet apartment. Since the accident, the world hadn't made sense. A drunk driver. One wrong turn. Her husband and daughter. Gone. No warnings. No goodbyes. Just empty space and the hum of a refrigerator in a too-silent kitchen. Dana buried herself in work, not because she wanted to be a hero, but because protecting strangers was easier than facing what she had lost. She was about to turn back toward the station when she saw something strange at the bus stop. A small figure curled up on a bench. A blanket. A baby. And beside them, a German shepherd, sitting like a sentinel. She frowned. Slowing her cruiser, she parked, then stepped into the rain, pulling her hood tight over her short, dark hair. As she approached, her boots splashed quietly. She knelt a few feet away. "Hey there, sweetheart," she said gently. "Are you okay?" The girl flinched, pulling the baby tighter. That's when the dog stood, not barking, not snarling, just stepping between them, eyes locked on Dana's. Protective, watchful. A low rumble in his throat. Not a threat, but a warning. Dana stopped cold. She knew that stance, that face, that presence. "No way," she whispered. "Boone?" The dog didn't move. She blinked away the rain. Or maybe tears. "Boone, is that you?" Boone, the therapy dog, the one who used to comfort kids in the pediatric cancer wing, belonged to Dr. Langford. After Langford died, Boone had vanished. Everyone assumed he ran off, mourning. But now, here he was, guarding a child again. Like he'd been searching for someone who needed him. Dana crouched slowly, heart hammering. The girl looked from Boone to Dana. "You know him?" she asked quietly. "I think so," Dana said. "His name is Boone." The dog didn't move, but the growl faded. "He found us?" the girl whispered. Dana swallowed hard. Something cracked inside her. "What's your name?" "Lila," the girl replied. "Okay, Lila, let's get you and your brother somewhere warm." Dana opened the back of her cruiser. Lila climbed in without protest, Finn still wrapped tightly in her arms. Boone hopped in beside her, curled beside the seat, like he'd always belonged there. The rain continued outside, but inside the car, it was still. Quiet. Safe. Dana adjusted the heat and looked at them in the mirror. She didn't say it aloud, but she felt it. This wasn't a rescue, it was a reunion. The precinct lobby smelled faintly of old coffee and damp coats. A fluorescent light flickered above the front desk, buzzing in a way that made the whole space feel colder than it already was. But to Lila, soaked to the skin, holding a baby in her arms and a dog pressed protectively against her side, it felt like the closest thing to safety she'd known in weeks. Officer Dana Whitlock held the door open and guided them inside, speaking softly. "Let's get you dry, honey." Lila didn't respond. Her eyes scanned every corner, calculating exits, noting who stood where, just like she'd learned to do in her cousin's apartment. Finn stirred in her arms, his tiny face peeking out from the wet blanket. Boone followed closely, never more than an arm's length from her. A younger officer at the desk glanced up and did a double-take. "Everything okay, Dana?" Dana nodded. "I need a towel, formula if we have it, and maybe one of those old blankets from the storage bin." "You got it!" He moved quickly. Dana led Lila to a worn-out bench by the heater, kneeling in front of her. "You can sit here. You're safe now, okay?" Still no reply, just wide, wary eyes. Dana could see it clear as day. This little girl didn't trust adults. Probably hadn't had a reason to in a long time. A few minutes later, the officer returned with a towel and a soft baby blanket from the break room. Dana offered the towel to Lila first, gently. "This one's for you. Let me help with him." Lila hesitated. "I won't take him," Dana said. "I promise. Just want to keep him warm. That word, promise, hung heavy in the air. After a pause, Lila nodded slightly and let Dana ease the baby into her arms. Boone didn't move, just watched. Dana unwrapped the soggy blanket and winced at how cold the baby felt. "Hey there, little guy," she whispered. She cradled him close to her chest, wrapped him in the warm blanket, and rubbed his back softly until his shivering slowed. Lila stared, unsure. "His name?" Dana asked. "Finn," Lila murmured. Dana smiled. "That's a good name." She handed Finn back, now warmer and beginning to fuss. "We'll get him a bottle," Dana added. "And maybe something for you, too. Have you eaten today?" Lila didn't answer. Dana stood. "I'll be right back. Boone's got you." Boone sat on his haunches, alert, his fur still dripping onto the linoleum. His gaze followed Dana until she disappeared down the hall. In the break room, Dana leaned against the counter and closed her eyes. Her breath caught in her chest. It had been a long time since someone needed her like that. She remembered standing in this very room the night after the accident, people offering condolences in whispers. She remembered the smell of the cheap coffee and the way the silence echoed when the locker room door clicked shut. That had been her breaking point. Now, a little girl with tired eyes and a baby brother had just cracked something open inside her. She poured warm water into a bottle of formula, tested it on her wrist like she used to when Olivia was a baby, then carried it back down the hall. Lila hadn't moved. Boone hadn't either. Dana crouched and offered the bottle. "Here, you can try giving it to him now. He looks hungry." This time Lila took it. Finn latched on like he'd been starving. Probably had been. Dana watched the girl's hands tremble as she held the bottle steady. Her own hands used to shake like that too. After the funeral, after the social worker visits, after the first night she tried to sleep in the empty house. "You did a good job taking care of him," Dana said gently. "That's not easy." Lila blinked, unsure whether it was praise or a trap. By the time social services arrived, it was nearly dark. Rain still tapped against the windows, softer now. The waiting room was quiet. Lila sat curled with Finn asleep on her chest. Boone pressed against her side like a living wall. Dana stood by the front desk, arms crossed, jaw tight. The woman from Child Protective Services was polite, professional, and distant. She spoke to Dana in hushed tones. "How long have they been here?" "A couple hours," Dana replied. "I found them on Monroe." The girl wasn't crying. She wasn't even asking for help. Just sitting in the rain like the world had forgotten her. The woman scribbled something in her notepad. "Did she say anything about her guardian? Anyone we can contact?" Dana shook her head. "Only said she used to live in a house that got foreclosed. No mention of names. I don't even think she knows who's supposed to be caring for her." The woman nodded. "We'll need to place them in temporary care while we locate next of kin." Dana's stomach twisted. "She's terrified. You're not going to scare her more, are you?" "I'll be gentle," the woman said, not unkindly. "But she needs to be processed through our system." Dana stared at the floor. "I'll take them." The woman looked up, surprised. "Excuse me? I'll foster them." "Temporarily," Dana clarified, "until you figure out the rest. You're not required." "I know, I want to." There was a long pause. "I'll need to make some calls." Dana nodded. "Do it." Back at her apartment, Dana unlocked the door and turned on the hallway light. The place was small, just one bedroom, one bath, kitchen with squeaky cabinets. But it was clean and quiet. Lila stood in the doorway, clutching Finn, her eyes darting around the unfamiliar space. Boone padded in like he owned the place, giving it a quick sniff before circling the couch and settling near the window. Dana dropped her keys in the bowl by the door. "You can sit wherever you want." Lila looked at her feet. "I'll get you something dry to wear. Might be a little big, but better than wet jeans." Dana found an old sweatshirt and a pair of leggings Olivia had outgrown years ago. They still smelled faintly of lavender detergent. She placed them on the back of the couch with a soft towel. "I'll heat something up for dinner." Lila didn't move. She was still holding Finn. Still unsure, Dana kneeled down. "Would you like me to hold him while you change?" Lila hesitated, then slowly nodded. Dana took the baby gently, smiling as he yawned. She carried him to the recliner, rocking him lightly while Lila disappeared into the bathroom. The apartment felt different with them inside. Not crowded, not chaotic, just fuller. Dinner was simple, microwaved mac and cheese and apple slices, but Lila ate quietly, mechanically, finishing everything on the plate. Boone sat beside her, tail thumping softly each time she dropped a piece of pasta. Dana caught herself smiling. She hadn't seen this much life in her home in over a year. After dinner, Dana laid out a blanket on the couch. "You can sleep here tonight," she told Lila. "It's not much, but it's warm." Lila just nodded. Finn was already drifting off in Dana's arms. She placed him in a laundry basket lined with towels, a makeshift crib, for now. Boone lay at the base of the couch, stretching out his long legs and letting out a satisfied huff. His job, clearly, wasn't over. Dana stood by the doorway, watching Lila pull the blanket over herself. "Good night," she said softly. Lila looked up. "Night," the first word she'd said in over an hour. In the darkness, Dana lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The sounds in the apartment were different now. Soft breathing, baby sighs, Boone's occasional shifting. She reached for the photo on her nightstand. Olivia's smile stared back at her. "Looks like I wasn't done being a mom," Dana whispered. She placed the photo face down and let the tears come. Quiet, grateful, scared, hopeful. The next morning would bring paperwork. More questions, decisions. But tonight, nobody was alone. Boone was already sitting at the door when the morning light peeked through the blinds. His ears twitched with every shift in the apartment. He wasn't sleeping. Not really. His job wasn't over, and he seemed to know it. On the couch, Lila stirred beneath the blanket, blinking against the unfamiliar ceiling. For a few seconds, she forgot where she was. Then she heard the soft, rhythmic breathing of Finn in his towel-lined basket, and the scent, lavender and something like pancakes. She sat up slowly. Her eyes darted toward the front door, instinctively checking her exit. Old habits. Across the room, Boone tilted his head at her. That same alert, thoughtful gaze. She gave him the tiniest nod. It was all she had to give. From the kitchen, the faint clatter of dishes broke the silence. Dana Whitlock, still in her flannel pajama pants and a college sweatshirt, was flipping pancakes on a scratched, non-stick skillet. Her hair was tied up messily, coffee steaming beside her. She wasn't trying to be impressive, just human. Lila didn't move from the couch. Dana glanced back. "Morning, hungry?" No answer. "That's okay. Pancakes are optional," Dana said lightly. "But I made some in case you changed your mind." Boone's ears perked up at the word pancakes. He knew it too well. Dana smiled and set the table for one. She didn't set out 2 plates. She didn't ask questions. She just let the morning happen. After a moment, Lila finally stood. She gathered Finn into her arms, bundled in the blanket Dana had given her last night. He was warm, still sleeping. The little girl moved slowly toward the table, her bare feet soft on the hardwood. "You want to hold him while you eat?" Dana asked. Lila shook her head. She sat down and balanced Finn carefully in her lap. Dana placed a small plate of pancakes in front of her. No syrup, just butter and a sprinkle of sugar. Safe, simple. "I used to make these every Saturday morning," Dana said casually, sipping her coffee. "It became a tradition. Then it just stopped." She didn't explain why. She didn't have to. Lila picked at the edge of a pancake with her fingers, ate slowly, cautiously. Dana let the silence sit between them without forcing it to end. Some silences weren't meant to be filled. Later that morning, Dana made a call to the CPS caseworker from the night before. "They're okay," she reported. "Lila's not saying much, but Finn's eating, sleeping." "Good, I'm glad to hear that. We're still trying to track down her listed relatives, but so far, no luck." Dana stared out the window. I don't think anyone's looking for them. There was a pause on the other end. We're required to keep searching, but you've still got them under temporary custody, right? I do. Let me know if anything changes. And Dana, thanks for stepping in. Dana hung up without responding. She didn't do this for praise. She wasn't even sure why she had done it. Only that it felt like something she couldn't not do. That afternoon, Dana drove them to Target in her old SUV. The heater rattled when it started up, and the windshield wipers squeaked in protest. Boone sat in the back, his head poking between the front seats. Lila sat in the back seat, cradling Finn with one arm, her other hand gripping the seatbelt like a lifeline. Dana didn't say much, just asked if Lila liked strawberries or blueberries better. When she didn't answer, Dana bought both. They picked out diapers, baby wipes, formula, and a pair of tiny pajamas that said, "I woke up this cute." Dana grabbed a 2-pack of children's toothbrushes, some leggings, and a sweatshirt with a puppy on it. She glanced at Lila and added a small stuffed bear with a soft ribbon. When they got home, Dana showed her how to stack the diapers under the sink, where to find the baby thermometer, and how to use the bottle warmer. Lila watched, wide-eyed. Not because it was new, but because someone was showing her with patience. That evening, after Finn had been changed and fed, Dana offered Lila a bath. "I'll stay with him." Boone, too. Layla hesitated, then nodded once. Inside the bathroom, the warm steam fogged the mirror. She closed the door and stood there for a moment, just breathing. It had been weeks since she'd felt warm water. She peeled off her clothes and stepped into the tub, her shoulders finally unclenching as the heat soaked into her bones. Outside, Boone sat by Finn's basket, while Dana folded a clean blanket. She watched Boone for a moment, struck again by his calm, his purpose. "You're not just here by accident, are you?" she whispered. Boone's ears flicked, but he didn't move. Dana leaned over and touched Finn's tiny hand. He curled his fingers around hers, even in sleep. Something unspoken passed between the woman, the baby, and the dog. The next few days passed quietly. Lila didn't talk much, but she followed routines. She helped prepare bottles, learned where Dana kept the laundry soap, and made a point to keep Boone close. Every night, Dana heard Lila's small cries from the couch, quiet, muffled into a pillow. But she never called out, never asked for comfort. Dana didn't push. She knew what it meant to grieve in silence. Instead, she offered small things. A grilled cheese sandwich cut into perfect triangles. A new pair of socks that actually fit. A flashlight by the couch in case the dark got too heavy. It wasn't much, but it was a start. One morning, as Dana was packing up a small tote of baby items for a pediatric checkup, she noticed something unusual. Boone was pacing by the front door. Not anxious, just alert. "Need to go out?" she asked. Boone looked at her, then walked to the hallway where Lila was brushing her hair in front of the mirror. He stopped, sat, stared at the wall. Dana followed slowly. "What is it, boy?" She crouched next to him, placing a hand on his back. Boone leaned slightly into her, then gave a single, soft bark. Lila's eyes flicked up, startled. "I think he hears something," Dana said. There was a quiet creak, and then a knock at the door. Dana stood up quickly. Her hand instinctively reached for her belt, though her badge and gun were in the drawer. Another knock. She opened the door carefully. On the other side stood a middle-aged man in a delivery uniform. He held a clipboard. "Sorry to bother," he said. "Wrong address. Looking for 417 Oak, not 407. Dana nodded, calming. "No worries." As he walked away, she noticed Boone was still stiff, still watching, still unsure. That night, Lila asked out of nowhere, "Is Boone yours?" Dana looked up from her laptop. "He used to belong to someone else, a doctor who worked with kids. But after the doctor passed, Boone disappeared." Lila looked down at her lap. "I think he was looking for somebody." Dana nodded. "Maybe he found them." Lila didn't speak again, but later, when Dana checked on her, she found the girl curled against Boone, her hand buried in his fur. Later that week, Dana pulled out a stack of papers from her desk. The foster agreement was temporary, but it didn't have to be. She looked at the signatures. She looked at the sleeping girl. Then, quietly, she began to fill out the next set of forms. Not because she had to, but because it finally made sense. Some families are born, others are found. The sun rose earlier now, brushing the apartment walls in soft orange before most alarms ever sounded. For the first time in a long while, mornings didn't feel cold or rushed in Dana Whitlock's small one-bedroom apartment. Instead, they carried a rhythm, quiet, delicate, and new. Boone was always up first. He'd circled the apartment once, checking doors, sniffing corners, and then plant himself in the hallway between the bedroom and the living room, as if confirming his two most important humans were still safe. Leela no longer woke up startled. She still kept the blanket pulled high around her shoulders, still slept with one eye half open. But she stirred gently now, blinking toward Boone first, then toward the soft glow of the kitchen where Dana was already making breakfast. Dana made pancakes every Saturday now. It had started as a comfort, an old habit pulled from a time before her world shattered. Now it was something else. A quiet offering, a way to say, "You belong here," without speaking it aloud. She heard light footsteps padding across the hardwood. "Morning," she said, flipping the second pancake onto a plate. Lila didn't respond, but she didn't hide either. She set Finn, bundled in a warm baby wrap, onto the couch, then stood awkwardly near the counter, watching Boone sit obediently beside Dana. "You want to help?" Dana asked. Layla shrugged. Dana handed her the bottle of syrup. "You can pour the smiley face." That earned the tiniest twitch of a smile at the corner of Lila's mouth. It was progress. By mid-morning, Finn was snuggled in a swing chair that Dana had found on Facebook Marketplace. Lila sat on the floor next to him, holding one of his rattles while Boone lay curled beside them. The scene felt like something out of a family ad, except it wasn't staged. It was real, unearned maybe, and still raw around the edges, but real. Dana sat at the dining table, a thick stack of manila folders spread out in front of her. The adoption paperwork wasn't exactly thrilling, but it was necessary, and it felt right. The form asked, "What motivates you to foster and potentially adopt these children?" She stared at it for a long time. Finally, she wrote, "Because I know what it feels like to lose your whole world overnight. And I know what it means when someone refuses to walk away from that." Later that afternoon, they drove to the park. It was a small place nestled behind a grocery store and a VFW hall. Just a few swings, a sandbox, a rusted jungle gym. But it had shade, and the autumn breeze was gentle. Lila didn't run toward the other kids. She kept her distance, sat on a bench with Finn, while Boone sat beneath it like a silent sentinel. Dana pushed an empty swing with her hand, letting it creak forward and back. "You ever been to a park before?" she asked. Lila didn't answer, but she reached down and tugged a leaf from Boone's ear, absently smoothing his fur. Dana sat next to her. "I used to bring my daughter here. She'd race Boone to the monkey bars." Lila looked up at her. "I didn't know Boone belonged to a kid," she said quietly. "He didn't. He was a hospital dog, trained to comfort children. But when my Olivia got sick, Boone, it's like he just knew." Lila looked back at the horizon. "He still knows." Dana nodded. That night, Dana tucked Finn into his basket crib and draped a soft blanket over Lila's small frame on the couch. As she walked away, Lila's voice stopped her. "Did your daughter die?" Dana turned slowly. Leela wasn't looking at her, just stared at the ceiling. Dana stepped back, sat on the edge of the couch. "She did," she said, her voice calm but quiet. "A year and a half ago. She was riding with her dad. A man ran a red light." Silence stretched thin between them. "I'm sorry," Lila whispered. Dana blinked. "Me too." Lila swallowed hard. "Is that why you took us in?" Dana took a moment before answering. "No, I didn't take you in because I lost someone. I took you in because you reminded me that I still had something left to give." Lila looked at her. For the first time, really looked at her. Boone, sensing the emotion, placed his head on Lila's knee. She stroked him gently, and her hand trembled less than it used to. The next day brought a knock at the door. It wasn't a delivery driver this time. It was the CPS caseworker, Mrs. Langley, with an update and a clipboard. Dana invited her in, offered coffee, and handed her the updated form. Langley's eyes scanned it carefully. "You're moving forward with the guardianship?" Dana nodded. "I've made my decision. I've seen a lot of foster cases, Officer Whitlock. Most don't end this way." Dana looked over at Lila, who was stacking baby wipes into a bin with careful hands. "Maybe this one's supposed to." Langley smiled softly. "We'll begin the approval process. You'll be hearing from us in the next few weeks." That evening, as the sky darkened early and rain tapped lightly on the windows, Dana lit a candle on the kitchen table. Lila came in holding Finn, his head against her shoulder. "What's that smell?" she asked. "Pumpkin vanilla," Dana said. It was Olivia's favorite. Lila set Finn in his seat and watched the candle flicker. "She'd like it here," Lila said suddenly. Dana looked up, surprised. "Your daughter. She'd like that you helped us." Dana's throat tightened. She reached across the table and took Lila's hand. "Yeah, I think she would." The days that followed stitched themselves into something like a routine. Lila began speaking more. Not much, but enough to ask about dinner or whether Finn was allowed to chew on his socks. Boone became her shadow. He followed her from room to room, napped by her feet, waited outside the bathroom door. At night, Dana would walk past the living room and see Lila curled against Boone, the dog's big head resting across her lap like a promise. Finn giggled more each day. His eyes tracked Dana whenever she walked by. He reached for her hair, tugged at her earrings. He didn't know this wasn't where he was supposed to be. He just knew it was safe. One Sunday morning, as Dana flipped pancakes in the kitchen, she dropped the spatula. Batter splattered across her shirt. Lila, startled at first, burst into laughter, a quick, unguarded laugh that filled the room like sunlight. Dana froze. Then she laughed too. It was the kind of laugh that pulled tears behind it. Not sad, just real. That night, after Finn was asleep and Boone was curled in his usual place, Dana pulled a small box from her closet. Inside were photos, old cards, a stuffed animal with a missing eye. She brought the box into the living room and placed it on the floor. Lila opened it slowly. The photos showed a girl not much older than her with big brown eyes and a wide smile. "That's Olivia," Dana said. "She's pretty," Lila whispered. "She was brave too, like you." Lila kept flipping through the photos. "She smiled a lot." "Yeah, so did I, back then." Lila didn't say anything, but later that night, she took one of the photos and placed it on the small table beside the couch, right next to the stuffed bear Dana had given her. The first real snow came earlier than expected. It started as a soft dusting, flakes swirling through the streetlights, then grew heavier until the rooftops disappeared beneath thick white layers. Lila watched from the window, her breath fogging the glass, as Finn gurgled behind her in his playpen. Boone sat beside them, alert but relaxed, as if even the storm couldn't break his quiet routine. Dana's apartment, once a hollow shell of faded photographs and untouched coffee mugs, now hummed with subtle life. There was noise, baby hiccups, Boone's tail thumping against the floor, the occasional clatter of dishes. But it wasn't chaos. It was comfort. Dana stood in the kitchen in fleece pajama bottoms and a hoodie, stirring hot cocoa and humming something half-remembered from her childhood. She wasn't a singer, but her voice was soft, steady, and familiar in the best kind of way. "Marshmallows or no?" she called over her shoulder. Lila turned from the window. "Yes, please." Dana smiled. She placed 2 mugs on the table, one with a swirl of cream and a smiley face made from mini marshmallows. Boone took his place at Lila's feet as she climbed onto the chair, Finn happily kicking in his bouncer seat nearby. "I used to drink this with my mom after sledding," Dana said. "It always burned my tongue because I wouldn't wait." Lila sipped carefully. "It's good." Dana didn't say it aloud, but she never got tired of hearing that small voice speak. Not anymore. A week later, Dana got the call. It came in the middle of the afternoon, just after she'd changed Finn and put him down for a nap. Lila was reading a dog-themed picture book on the floor, while Boone lay next to her like a breathing pillow. The number was familiar. Child Protective Services. "Hi, Dana. This is Laura Langley. I've got an update for you." Dana's heart tensed. "We've finished the background investigation on the extended family," Langley continued. "There's no one appropriate or available to take the children." Dana took a breath. "So what does that mean?" Langley's tone softened. "It means the decision now lies with you. You can proceed with full guardianship, permanently." Dana looked over at Lila, who was carefully turning a page while Boone blinked up at her protectively. Her voice was steady. "I want to move forward." Later that evening, after Finn was asleep and the apartment was warm from the oven, Dana sat down beside Lila on the couch. A quiet Christmas movie flickered on the TV, the kind where nobody ever really fights, and everyone ends up holding Coco at the end. "Lila," Dana said gently. The little girl looked up, her eyes tired but clear. "I need to ask you something." Lila straightened up slightly. "I spoke with the caseworker today about your family. They couldn't find anyone to take care of you and Finn." Lila didn't flinch. She just stared ahead, as if the words didn't surprise her. "But," Dana continued, "they said I could apply to keep you both. For good, not just for now." Lila blinked. "Do you want to?" Dana didn't answer right away. She reached out, tucked a loose strand of hair behind Lila's ear. "I didn't expect to," she said softly. "But then you and Finn showed up. And now I can't imagine this home without you." Lila looked down at her hands. "I used to think nobody would ever want us." Dana swallowed hard. She pulled Lila into a hug. "I didn't think I'd ever be a mom again." The words hung in the room like a vow. Quiet, earnest, real. Boone gave a low, contented sigh at their feet. That night, Dana sat up late at the kitchen table with a pen in her hand and a folder full of official-looking forms spread across the surface. Boone lay by her feet, occasionally lifting his head when she shifted. She filled out line after line: social security numbers, insurance details, school registration. When she reached the final signature page, hands trembled, not from doubt, but from something stronger, hope. She pressed the pen to the paper and signed her name. Dana Marie Whitlock, guardian. The days that followed moved gently. Lila began opening up more. She asked questions, told Dana about the pancakes her mom used to make, the way she could braid hair without a mirror, how she always smelled like coconut and baby powder. Dana listened without interrupting, storing every word like treasure. Finn began standing with help. His giggles became louder, his grasp on Dana's fingers firmer. He pulled her glasses off once and cackled like it was the funniest thing in the world. Dana didn't even mind. One Sunday morning, the three of them, plus Boone, drove out to a Christmas tree lot. It wasn't a big place, just a family-owned setup behind a hardware store with hay bales and hot cider. A man in a thick flannel jacket waved them toward the smaller trees. "You looking for something kid-sized?" he asked, smiling at Lila. Dana nodded. "We're starting new traditions this year." They chose a crooked little pine tree, not quite 5 feet tall, with a bald patch on one side and too many branches on the other. Lila called it perfect. Back home, they decorated it with hand-cut paper ornaments, strings of popcorn, and 3 mismatched bulbs from a dusty box Dana had tucked away in the closet for years. One ornament was shaped like a golden dog bone. Boone's tail thumped when Lila hung it near the top. On Christmas Eve, the apartment was filled with warmth. Banana bread in the oven, Finn babbling in the playpen, a holiday playlist humming in the background. Dana handed Lila a wrapped box. The girl hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was a book, hardback. The cover had 2 children and a dog beneath a starry sky. "It's your story," Dana said. "I wrote it down." Lila's eyes widened. Dana turned to the first page. "Once upon a time, There was a girl named Lila, her baby brother Finn, and a brave dog named Boone. They were lost, but not forgotten, because someone, somewhere, still believed in happy endings. Lila's lip quivered. She threw her arms around Dana's waist. "I love it." Dana held her close. "I love you." Boone barked once, just enough to make Finn laugh from across the room. That night, the apartment was quiet again, but not the lonely kind. It was the kind that comes with peace. Lila lay in bed, her book beside her. Finn snored softly in the crib across the room. Boone lay on the rug like a guardian at his post. Dana sat on the edge of the couch, holding a framed photo in her lap. Olivia's smile looked back at her. And this time, it didn't break her. She placed the photo on the mantel, next to a drawing Lila had made of their new family. 3 stick figures, a baby, and a big happy dog with a heart on his chest. Somewhere outside, snow began falling again. The world turned softer under its weight. Inside, a woman who had lost everything tucked in the children she never expected to have. And a dog who had once gone missing lay still, content, knowing he had brought the right people home. Spring came slowly. The snow melted into the gutters and disappeared down the storm drains. Trees budded shyly. Birds returned. The smell of fresh-cut grass replaced the heaviness of winter air, and with it, the world seemed to exhale. In Dana Whitlock's once quiet apartment, life had found its rhythm. Mornings began with the sound of baby Finn giggling from his crib and Boone stretching with a dramatic yawn before trotting to the kitchen for his breakfast. Lila was usually the last to wake, her small feet padding softly down the hallway as she blinked sleep from her eyes and smiled at the smell of toast or scrambled eggs. And every morning, Dana stood at the stove, coffee in hand, feeling like she was finally right where she belonged. It had been nearly 4 months since she'd signed the guardianship paperwork. And while some things were still difficult, nightmares, paperwork, doctor appointments, there was a peace in the house that no one dared to take for granted. Boone, too, had changed. He no longer paced at the windows or stiffened at strange sounds. He slept deeper now, more relaxed, as if the tension that had driven him since his former owner's death had finally let go. One night, as Dana sat on the back porch with a blanket over her lap and Boone curled at her feet, she looked at the stars and whispered, "You found them, and you found me." Boone thumped his tail once. He didn't need to understand the words. He had always understood more than that. In early April, Dana got another call from Child Protective Services. "Just confirming," said the voice on the other end, "that you still want to proceed with permanent adoption. The final hearing is coming up." Dana smiled. "There's no doubt in my mind." The woman chuckled. "That's what we like to hear." When Dana told Lila, she said it softly, unsure how the girl would respond. Lila sat still for a moment, her face unreadable. Then she asked, "Will our names change?" "Only if you want them to," Dana said. "But you don't have to change a thing to be mine." Lila thought for a moment. "I'd like to keep my name, but I want Finn to have yours." Dana blinked back tears. "Okay, then that's what we'll do." The morning of the adoption hearing, the 3 of them stood in front of the courthouse in matching navy blue outfits. Lila wore a dress with a small flower tucked behind her ear. Finn kicked happily in a stroller. Boone wore a brand-new collar and sat proudly beside them like he knew this day mattered. Inside, the courtroom wasn't grand. The judge wasn't wearing robes, but it felt monumental just the same. Dana answered questions. So did the caseworker. Then the judge turned to Lila. "Do you want to live with Miss Whitlock?" Lila nodded, her voice clear. "She's my mom now." Dana didn't cry during the ceremony. She waited until they were outside and the wind hit her face. Then she wrapped her arms around both children and whispered, "We did it." Boone barked once and licked her hand. The following weeks were a blur of thank you cards, official documents, and a dinner thrown by a few fellow officers who had seen Dana at her lowest, and now watched her rise quietly, courageously. One afternoon, a neighbor came over holding a pie and a folder. "I heard about your adoption. I used to work in a children's center a few towns over," she said. "There's this class, therapy animals. Boone might qualify if you ever wanted to get him certified." Dana smiled. "He's already saved more lives than most humans I know." Still, she tucked the brochure into the drawer by the fridge, just in case. One day, about a month after the hearing, Dana walked into the living room to find Lila sitting on the floor, scissors in hand, carefully trimming the edges of a piece of paper. "What are you working on?" Lila looked up and grinned. "A welcome sign for the new dog." Dana raised an eyebrow. "New dog? Well, I just figured Boone might want a friend." Boone, from his corner, perked up, but remained suspiciously still, as if weighing his opinion. Dana laughed. "Let's give it a little time." But a week later, they were at the shelter, just looking. They came home with a rescue mutt named Penny, who had one floppy ear, a habit of stealing socks, and immediately decided Finn was her favorite person on the planet. Boone accepted her with mild tolerance and a patient sigh. But everyone knew this was Boone's house. She was just renting space. Summer rolled in slow and warm. Lila enrolled in a community art class, bringing home sketches of Boone wearing sunglasses, Finn in a spaceship, and Dana holding a giant pancake. Finn learned to crawl, then stand, then walk, all within a 3-week window that left Boone entirely unsure of his job description. Dana's nights no longer echoed with silence. Instead, they pulsed with lullabies, the buzz of baby monitors, and the occasional crash of spilled cereal bowls. It wasn't perfect. Some days were still hard. Lila had meltdowns. Finn caught fevers. Dana got overwhelmed. But it was theirs. One quiet Sunday evening, after Finn had fallen asleep and Lila had curled up in her room with a book, Dana sat at the kitchen table flipping through a photo album. Inside were snapshots of their time together. Cocoa-stained smiles, Boone sleeping with a baby on his back, drawings taped to the fridge, Lila's hand in Dana's at the courthouse. She paused on one photo. It was the first one they'd taken together. Lila in her too-big hoodie, Finn wrapped in a donated blanket, Boone standing tall beside them like a protector who refused to leave. Dana closed the album and smiled. Sometimes family doesn't show up how we expect. Sometimes it arrives cold and scared on a rainy afternoon. Sometimes it barks. As she got up to turn off the lights, Boone followed her. "You found them, huh?" she whispered. He wagged his tail once. And as they walked down the hallway, Dana could hear Lila's voice from her room. "Night, Boone." One bark. All was well. Thank you so much for sticking with us through all 6 parts of this heartfelt journey. Lila, Finn, Dana, and Boone may have been fictional, but their emotions, resilience, and the power of chosen family are very real in the lives of many people and animals today. From cold bus stops to warm kitchens, from broken beginnings to a full-circle adoption, this story reminds us that sometimes the family you find is the one who truly saves you. Now we'd love to hear from you. What was the moment that moved you the most? And what do you believe makes a family real? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to share this story with someone who believes in second chances.